Good afternoon. Welcome. All of you best ball degens who are still here in February, ready for the 2023 season. I know that I fit squarely into that category. As I put in the tweet, I am 63 of these drafts through. We are 30% full on the tournament. So that means I should have about 45 or so done, which a little above pace. So I may need to slow down a little, but there's a ton of value, I think, in these drafts. And that combined with I'm enjoying them. So I just keep popping them. And we're going to be doing another one today. If you missed last week's stream, check it out. We talked a little more about the strategy aspects, some of the player positions, how I'm treating those. But today we're going to jump right in and we're going to just, have some fun, answer any questions in chat. So let's see who all is here. Give me a good afternoon. Give me a what's up. Give me who's your most exposed player. Who have you been drafting the most of in chat? Curious to hear. JM. All right. And on that note, we are not going to delay today. We are going to hop right in. Let's see what we do. All right. I had some exposures going. There we go. Okay. So we'll jump right in to the $10 big board. Give about 10 seconds before I'll hop in. Hopefully we can get a bunch of people that are watching the stream in this draft take advantage of that sweet plus EV that I give out with these drafts. I forgot what my final number was, but for those who saw, gosh, that was insane last year. I think I ended up advancing about 4%, maybe it was 5% of my stream drafts. And it was something like 24% of the ones that weren't on stream. That's just how much I love you guys. Just willing to give up all those ski bucks. Okay. We've got the 5 position. I don't mind this. I'm pretty happy with, I think usually number 5, I can end up getting Cooper Kupp because people have been taking Kelsey ahead of him. Maybe we get some Tyreek. Not a bad position. All right. A lot of names that I see here. Hawkberg, how's it going? Couple other red badges in Edmondor, Donkey. I'm a little freezer. All right, a couple new names as well. Welcome. Let's see. What do we got in the chat? We've got, Taysom. Early on, I mentioned this on one of the streams, like that. My most owned tight end wasn't even close. I think that's probably come down a bit since basically I put the rankings out. His ADP has definitely been popping up a little. Let's see where he is right now. He's at 141. If I check out the ranks, we've got him at actually right at 141 right now. So I still like him. I have a bunch of him, as I mentioned, but I would just say he's definitely was grabbing him before. Like Greg Dulcich versus him is a pretty interesting one where, especially if Judy ends up getting traded, then Dulcich ends up getting a bit more kind of the role there. Not expecting. There we go. Okay, sorry. Cooper Kupp, we'll start off with this. As I was saying, this is what I usually most often end up with the 5th pick, which I'm okay with. Stafford ends up going pretty late. So if you wanted to get that, I do think like Stafford and Kupp is probably one that, like, if you draft him, it does make sense to kind of make sure you get Stafford. He's cheap enough that we're not giving up substantial value by having to reach or where you're drafting him. I think his ADP is like 133. But what it really comes down to is if Matthew Stafford ends up retiring, which is definitely a potential risk because of the back injury, I find it very hard to imagine that Cooper Kupp has a great season. I guess they could bring in someone like a Jimmy G if Jimmy's willing, if Jimmy can't find another space and is willing to play on, a small contract, but like they're not going to be overspending. The team isn't nearly competitive enough to bring in an expensive QB if it's not Stafford. So I'll probably keep an eye out for Stafford in that one. But let's see, 125. This right here is where we'll probably try to target him. And because no other Rams pass catchers are really getting drafted high. I mean, Cam Akers is going around this kind of 80 spot. Higbee's at like 130 something. So we shouldn't really be fighting people for him either. So like that. But this is a stream, and we know that happens with these EV streams. So it's very possible that we get sniped. All right, let's see. What else do we got? Josh Palmer. Interesting one. I don't have much Josh Palmer. I think I do have a lot of Keenan Allen. I'm adapting. I was taking him before DJ Moore and Terry McLaurin. As their ADP shifted, I've moved the ranks just a bit so that we're not just going to get crazy heavy overload on one individual player. I also like the reports from DJ Moore and what we've seen with expectation for like, hey, who they can end up with at the QB position. Because if they get Bryce or they get CJ Stroud, I think that's going to be great for DJ Moore. I think that's most likely what ends up happening. But yeah, so with a Keenan Allen, like I think if you expect Keenan Allen to stay in Los Angeles with the Chargers, then Josh Palmer probably is a bit too expensive. But even if Keenan ends up getting, released, traded, whatever it is, goes somewhere else, Josh Palmer, like he had a major opportunity last year and just wasn't able to convert. Okay, we are back now. So his upside concerns me a little. We got Cooper. Could go Kenneth Walker. I'm not going to grab Jalen Hurts here. Just they're too expensive for me. I do like Walker, but I think we're going to get locked out of the wide receivers if we end up not grabbing one here. So I'm going to grab the wide receiver here because I don't really want to start with running back in the seconds and third. And if we do grab Kenneth Walker there's a decent chance that like we're going to be this major tier of running backs. And then you're either reaching at one of these wide receivers that I think is a substantial tier below the T. Higgins. So we'll grab our second wide receiver and now expect that we're just going to end up with one of these running backs. And I don't think there's that much difference between Kenneth Walker and these guys. There's a little bit, but it's not that much. I mean, I really think there's some strong running backs in this spot. Each of them carries with them a little bit of risk. But like Ramondre could literally be a top 5 running back if they don't re-sign Damian Harris. I'm not expecting Pierre Strong to get like a substantial role. And so the amount of catches that he ended up with last year and his efficiency there, he could easily be a top 5 back. Josh Jacobs, we've already seen it. And then Nick Chubb, especially with no Kareem Hunt, like all of these guys could have major upside. Just, yes, they do have some risk that things need to fall the right way for them and basically not get a shared backfield. And as we're expecting, we get these running backs fall to us. We'll take Chubb right at about that ADP and gives us our first running back. So Chubb, Kupp, Higgins, pretty decent start right at the ADP. It falls in the type of structure that I'm usually looking for. Just looking to see if there's anything else that we would maybe want to do. Burrow already went, but I still don't love taking Burrow just with Higgins. I've done it once where it was Higgins and Chase, but so we'll take that. We'll take that running back. I think that makes a little more sense than trying to reach on for the Fields or the Lamar. All right, let's see. Kareem Hunt. Aaron, if you're drafting him, curious, like what do you see as it playing out from like an offseason? Because he's definitely an interesting one that I've been a little over ADP on. So I've got some of him. But more recently, I've also kind of said, hey, I'm going to draft a wide receiver that's at that same area as he is in that 120s, because that's where like I think there's a tier break between like the Josh Downs and Josh Downs is in that tier. But then after that, you really get close to like that Rondale Moore, Michael Gallup tier. So I've often been grabbing the wide receiver there and then going with one of the rookie running backs that are right after Kareem Hunt, like a Devin, a Chain. Gosh, I'm so horrible. I really need someone else to be saying these names out loud so that I can figure it out. But I mean, like Kareem Hunt is a player. We know he's a pass catcher. We can fall into the right role. But I think overall, like, hey, he's a fairly safe play. Appreciate that, Deadhead. Appreciate that. All right. I don't even know who we're talking about. Someone help me out here. Molo. Who could be Molo? Melvin Gordon? No, that's Melgo. Molo. I legit don't know. Help me out here. Who is this nickname? I'm legit trying to think. Terrace Marshall, 20th rounder there. Josh Norris would be happy about this one. He obviously has always been on the Terrace Marshall train. I'm not against it. I think he's an example where like he's most likely going to be the number 2 wide receiver there. I could definitely see Carolina if Carolina grabs a QB with the first pick, if Carolina grabs a QB with the first pick, I could definitely see them grabbing a wide receiver. I don't know about second, maybe third, just to kind of give DJ Moore another compliment there. But if that doesn't happen, Terrace Marshall's in great shape. We've always seen these kind of third-year breakouts historically. There's definitely a pattern there. And he has flashed. Like, definitely looked good in college, has that potential. I don't hate the Terrace Marshall. After this pick, I'll take a look and see what is my exposure to Terrace Marshall. I know I've got some. I got 12%, so not too bad right there. And it's not like I also like to grab Terrace Marshall when I grab like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud and hope that I can kind of luck into that stack there. We're looking at have definitely gone. No surprise there. If we're looking at who's on the board, we can take one of these tight ends, or we can go to that next tier of wide receivers. What are we looking at here? Any kind of stack stories that we want to start telling? Chris Godwin, I've honestly gotten a little scared of more recently. Recently, it's like in the last 24 hours with the news coming out that Tampa may be okay with just sticking with Kyle Trask at QB this year. And if that's the case, it sounds like it might just be a tank for Caleb situation. Now, that could mean that they then trade away Chris Godwin, which would probably be a really solid thing for him. And Mike Evans is the one who they can't trade away him with that contract and just where he is, with his age and such. So that's why I didn't go with Chris Godwin there. Went with Hawkinson, bit of an ADP situation. Getting a potentially elite tight end does fit this build. With the 20 rounds, I have been mostly waiting on QBs and tight ends. But in this structure, if there's no other fit, I'm willing to grab that one tight end and now waiting until the very end and grabbing 2 very late tight ends in probably these 17th, 18th, 19th style rounds. And now I've got like a weekly upside with Hawkinson, especially for the playoffs, but also have not investing too much draft capital, as we'll only use very, very late ones to complement that. From the QBs, we mentioned Matt Stafford. Burrow's off the table. Deshaun Watson is kind of in that middle area with Dak, where we could grab him, but I'm not making it too much of a priority just for Chubb. But Kirk Cousins at that kind of low 90s, we could definitely keep an eye out on that. Has back-to-back seasons of 300 fantasy points. And we expect that team just to continue to be a pass-heavy team. We'll see there. I think, not expecting Cousins' ADP to really ever drop below like this 96, 97 here, because Justin Jefferson is always going to be going 1, 2, 3 overall. And so we're expecting often Cousins is getting drafted here, and that creates that floor for him. The question is, how often do people reach for him at the 73, 74 here? Maybe the 92 or such for the Hawkinson. Ways to think about it. All right, we are back here. Kittle is way above, but that does not fit what we're looking for here. I'm going to put Jerry Jeudy in because it looks like wide receivers are going pretty quickly off this board. Yes, I have Jahmyr Gibbs higher up than Jeudy from a 1x1. But when I'm looking at this board from a strategy wise and thinking okay, when I'm going to be picking again, yes, 14, but there are a lot of green guys here, and the oranges in that tier are really starting to kind of fall off. So I'll take the Jeudy here. Again, it gives us another potential stack partner if we want to grab Russ in that 120 range. And there have been reports that Jeudy could be traded. So if that's the case, who knows what we could backdoor ourselves into with that. Maybe I'm a little bummed now that we took Hawkinson when Kittle was available there. If we didn't go Hawkinson, what would we have done? Maybe DJ Moore. maybe Godwin. You can start thinking of like what would the 2v2 have been, where it was like Hawkinson, Judy versus Kittle, Moore. I think that Kittle Moore I liked, but obviously we didn't know that Kittle was going to fall all the way. But worked out really well for Donkey from Shrek. Pittman and Kittle is a nice combo there. Definitely like that 2v2 better than our Hawkinson and Judy. Let's go back. What's chat going on? Yeah, I've been trying to back into that stack too. I think I mentioned this. I don't know. I mentioned this in the ETR Discord. Let me see if I can pull that up. Let's see. So I was talking to. I know this is good for radio as I'm on another screen, but pulling up my comments. I was talking to Noble, shout out Noble, and he was asking just like, hey, at a high level, what is your kind of, he goes, so you're going more just based on ADP structure right now, I'm assuming. And I was like, here's the high level what I'm focusing on. So one is kind of stacking plus potential expected stacks that may be unique. And I gave the example of like, hey, Jimmy and the Saints. But what this comes down to, and maybe I touched on this a little last week, but what I've been trying to do is identify these stacks that we're not going to have full confidence of who is actually with who, because they're either rookies that are going to get drafted, and so this will be closed before the draft, or it is QBs that either won't be traded or signed until this tournament is over. Because if we correctly hit on Bryce Young to Houston, and then you get Nico Collins and John and Mechie, and I don't know, maybe if you want to include Cooks, if Cooks stays there, doesn't get traded or whatever, you now have a very unique stack with substantial upside, and just not many, as I said, it's unique. Not many people will have it because we didn't know that was for sure the stack there, and most people, aren't thinking that much ahead from a rookies aspect. They're kind of mostly looking at the teams drafting with what the known information is. And so that can be done with both rookies as well as free agent or expected free agents, something like, Rodgers and the possible destinations there. Okay. I'm going to go Aaron Jones here. I think this is great value, not only from just the 68 versus 60, but I believe Aaron Jones should be higher and will rise a bit. This was still around his ADP before he re-signed with Green Bay. And now that we know that he's re-signed with Green Bay, like that is the best case. I don't want to say it's the best case. That is a very, very good case. It's a top, I'd say like 15, 20% outcome from what could have happened to Aaron Jones because of how strong the free agent market is right now with running backs and how many running backs have kind of a decent complementary skill set. In the draft, we did not want to take a chance on Aaron Jones going to a new team, not knowing what that role was, not knowing what the situation is from like how he's being used and who he's competing against in Green Bay. Yes, A.J. Dillon is still there. A.J. Dillon did not have a great year last year. Maybe, AJ, they've shown an investment in Aaron Jones. So very happy with that. I think his ADP will rise. And let's see, from a rankings wise, we have him at ADP 53. I think that's a fair, just above Joe Mixon. Okay, coming back around, let's take a look. Saw another question in here. Who is your favorite rookie tight end? I've been drafting at least one every draft. A lot of upside in this class. In general, I'm not one who's going to be drafting that many rookie tight ends. Historically, very, very few rookie tight ends break out. And when you're looking at other tight ends that are still available in the draft at the end of the drafts, they just are often more attractive. Let me make this, we'll look a little more into the tight end. Okay, so it is pushing us to say, hey, we want you to draft another running back here. We've got Jones, we've got Chubb, we got some strong wide receivers. We could go with the Deshaun Watson here for the pair with Cleveland. We don't have much with the Dak. Could go with Bateman. Get some Todd Monken. That's not bad. If we go Deshaun, No, we're not going to go Njoku. Oh, this is ugly. I really don't like what we're doing. Let's grab Bateman. All right. I know I can't get a stack there. Obviously, Lamar's already gone, but I do like Bateman. I think he's got substantial upside with the new offense that's going to be installed there. Obviously, Lamar would have to stay there. Well, not have to stay there. It'd be best if Lamar stayed there. If Lamar ended up leaving, I think it's a good enough team. They'd probably still have a strategy to bring in another quarterback. But yeah, so I'm okay with that. Got a little flustered, was going back and forth on if I wanted to go Deshaun. I think like a lot of these running backs, they're not bad. I've been getting a decent amount. I don't know. Just didn't fall. I do feel like this draft is definitely a bit more wide receiver heavy. And so it felt better to secure another one of these elite upside number one wide receivers in a high powered offense. Because I'm not sure how much value we'll be able to get at wide receivers in the later rounds. We'll see. In those mid areas. Tight ends. So yeah, looking at these like rookie tight ends. So I have been going with some Michael Mayer just because like the reports on him, where his likely draft capital is, he really feels like a bit of an outlier that maybe falls more into like a TJ Hawkinson type mold and could have success early on. After him, we're talking mainly like more round 2 projections. It's already so hard for tight ends to really break out their rookie year. And like if we take a look, so Dalton Kincaid here is 207, Musgrave 233, and Washington's 236. Like, yeah, you can get these guys in the 18th to 20th rounds, but also around that space, like you've got Jelani Woods, who second year already started showing some success. That offense is supposed to be better. We'll have a legitimate QB. I like him more than I like all the rookie tight ends besides Michael Mayer. Tyler Conklin even. We started that year with him and CG Uzoma, but Conklin is the one who kind of found himself more of a role. Maybe that team gets a better quarterback, and Tyler Conklin like has shown a skill set to be useful. Isaiah Likely. We know that we know that coaching staff likes to use more 2 QB sets with Todd Monken. Also has, if Mark Andrews goes down, you get that substantial upside where he had 10 receptions in that week 18 or so game, I think it was. It's like it's just hard for me to want to drop below that first Michael Mayer tight end rookie to the others when I do like a lot of the guys that are in this range. So that's kind of my thoughts there for the rookie tight ends aspect. Rookie running backs, love those. Been hammering those all throughout the draft. Rookie wide receivers, I'm probably on pace with, but rookie tight ends, I'm a little lower, but so is the market. Okay, coming back to us, we are pick 92. If we wanted to go Cousins, this is probably where we're talking about at the 94, because if we don't get him, then I expect that Hochberg, who grabbed Justin Jefferson, will take him as his first QB. So that's a possibility. Other than that, the Alvin stuff definitely scares me. Yes, we're getting value now. That's a possibility. It really does. All right. So if we go Cousins, Stafford, and one late one, I don't hate that as a draft because also go Cousins, Russ. Let's just grab Cousins for the Hawkinson aspect. Sorry, Hochberg. I'm sure you were probably looking at it, but it works. It works with the stack that we're going with. Maybe we can draft another running back here. We'll see how scared people. There you go. Kamara goes there. I think that's a decent price point at him for 93, but yeah, there is risk. We're going to pass on these tight ends here. Probably either say, let's grab one of these running backs that has starter potential. And then can start taking a look at the QBs in that next tier or so. Russ for the Judy stack, Stafford down here for the Cooper Kupp stack. We'll keep an eye out. Okay. Yep, this is a good point as well when you're grabbing Cousins. I'm overall fairly low on Thielen from a rankings wise, not even that high on Osborne, probably about pace. But agreed. Now I give them all major boosts because we grabbed Hawkinson, and Cousins gives us those nice late stack partners. Okay, just looking from a value wise, no point in grabbing a Tua here. From a running back, Brian Robinson probably makes the most sense. Dalton Schultz doesn't. As I said, we grabbed Hawkinson. We're going to be waiting on tight end as late as possible. I do like Jacoby Myers, Hyatt. This is, as I was mentioning, like, hey, this is that tier. But no, we're going to grab Brian Robinson. Gives us a third one with RB1 upside like that for this draft. Now we've got 14 picks. Next one's going to be pick 115 or so, 116. We'll see what that looks like. Maybe we can grab another one of those wide receivers in that tier. Russ is also a possibility at that part. All right. Let's see. What are there? Any other questions, discussions, topics? Let's take a look at anyone else in this draft. I see. Oh, what was it? Aaron was saying here, top of his queue. Let's see. There you go. Yeah. Aaron is Hochberg, and he was saying Cousins with the top of his queue. But yeah, it would have been too much of a reach for him to grab Cousins here. So he had to expect that, there was a possibility of this, but he seems pretty happy. I love Trey Lance. He got a good value on the Daniel Jones. Let's see if he's got any stack partners for those. No stack partners for them. He can definitely get some late pieces with the Daniel Jones literally at the end of the draft with Richie James and Darius Slayton. Isaiah Hodgins is still available there. And then Trey Lance, you could be very successful without even having any stack partners. So no concern there. Any wonkiness that we're seeing in the drafts from a positional standpoint? Let's see up here. Everything looks pretty clean. Advanced Wars here, maybe as an interesting team. Let's take a look at that. 6 running backs for Advanced Wars. Starting off Eckler, Henry, grabbing a couple wide receivers, and then 4 of the last 5 picks being running back. Interesting. Not the way we would have drawn it up after starting running back. But it is worth kind of keeping that in mind. I don't think there's many other teams really going heavy on the running back, so we shouldn't feel too much of a squeeze just from that one player, but worth keeping an eye out. Lots of tea, all the high tea. Speaking of high tea, after the show, or people who are watching, if you're watching this later on, if you're watching it in chat, you could do it now, but I'll probably put a Twitter thread out this as well. Would love to hear if there's people that you think would be great guests to bring on now. Definitely looking to do that. Would love to kind of get a bit of a mix. And fortunately, I asked Amico because I think he's one of the best in the game at evaluating from a rookies and their kind of fantasy implications, but day job prevents him from being able to join with us. So we'll just have to digest his content, his rookie evaluations from the ETR site. But if there are other people that you think would be great fits, throw them in the chat, leave a comment after the show at who you think, and I'd love to get them on. I'll probably put a Twitter one out maybe next week to get some tags as well for people that you would be great fits for this. When we get into the actual, summer of best ball with the BBM, then we'll be bringing on a lot of our big name guests like we did last year. But if you got anyone that you think would be a great fit now, definitely feel free to include them. Okay. Jamal Williams, definitely a tier above these others. Doesn't obviously fit from a stack, but doesn't really need to. That's perfectly okay. I would take him up before this. We're not going with a tight end. Wide receivers wise, don't really love anything here. So we're going to grab Jamal. Gives us a nice 4th running back there. And now let's keep an eye on these wide receivers. So, on these quarterbacks. Russ gives us our Judy one. Rodgers, let's see. Is there anywhere that we think he may end up? Not really. Not really. So we'll probably pass on that one. Bryce and CJ, from a rookies wise, let's see. Again, wouldn't expect, we're not really drafting anyone here that's kind of at that top of the draft that we'd expect to be taking a QB. So not the right draft to be grabbing any of those. And then it gets us to Stafford and Carr. Anything's possible with Baltimore if they don't re-sign Lamar. But I'm expecting Carr to go to one of those kind of prime targets, somewhere like a Jets, maybe New Orleans. We know that New Orleans tried to trade for Derek Carr, but he ixnayed that. Didn't want to really give Las Vegas the benefit of the doubt there, hurt the team that he's going to. And I'm sure there's some contract aspects that are more in his favor to be released and then go sign where he wants. So I do think it's a possibility that Carr ends up in New Orleans because they've shown the interest there. That's another one where, like, hey, if I've grabbed a, Chris Olave, Michael Thomas, I'm kind of targeting Derek Carr to try to hope, luck into, I don't know, what luck is preparation meets opportunity. That's pretty much what we're doing there. So luck your way into getting that stack. Okay, let's see. Russell Wilson falls to us, getting a round of value. Love that. Think it makes too much sense for us not to take him here. Other guys that we'd be considering if we didn't go Russ, KJ Osborne. But maybe we can get KJ Osborne next. Let's just grab Russ, make this an easy one. Hope that Sean Payton is able to, throw in a couple ingredients and help Russ help him cook. Maybe Sean Payton is the secret ingredient that Russ needed to truly cook. I don't know. We'll see. It's just so hard to imagine that, like, he's just completely washed from a talent. From a mental standpoint, we know that, like, hey, that's possible. It's happened to other players. They just lost whatever it is, the drive, the confidence. Hoping that Russ can get it back together with Sean Payton. Let's see. Okay, question here. Gotta love Elijah Moore's value if Jets get Rodgers or Carr. I think it's kind of baked in right now. I think for all the Jets, look, Garrett Wilson, his ADP is number 20, and we have no idea who that QB is going to be. So I don't really think that, like, it would get a substantial bump. I think, like, Elijah Moore, like, where he's being drafted at that 123, it's taking into account that, like, yes, there's talent upside, which, at that 120 range, you get a few of them, but also, like, there's substantial risk with him. He was able to turn it on a little. Like, most of these came at the end of the season. But, like, he also very easily could go back to being game day inactives for whatever reason. So I think there's just substantial risk. I think there's a decent amount of risk there that I wouldn't expect him to move up a tier and go into, like, where Jacoby Myers and such are going, just because Rodgers or Derek Carr signed there, when we're already kind of mostly baking in that the Jets are going to get a decent starting QB next year. It's one of the reasons why, like, I'm a little low on Garrett Wilson. And I say a little low, like, I just have T. Higgins and Devonta Smith ahead of him. But, like, I'm a little concerned that what it looks like in that offense for Garrett Wilson with a new QB, and it could be a great QB, and that, definitely could help him. But also, just anytime there is change in an offense, there's a level of risk. And for me, I'm taking T. Higgins, who I highly, highly expect to still be on Cincinnati yet next year, in a high-powered offense with Joe Burrow at the helm, and Devonta Smith, high-powered offense, Jalen Hurts at the helm. I like those players from an expected with still substantial upside. Garrett Wilson, just new QB, new potential offense, scares me a tiny bit. I'm just taking him, like, 25 instead of 20. I end up taking those other two guys before him. Okay, coming back around, and then we can go back. Okay. 140 here. Osborne is gone. We have two rookies at the top of the board here. Sean Tucker and Devin, again, Achane. I don't know. I really should figure out Devin's name because he's in the category of like the my guy. I think he is going to blow away the combine extremely fast. Think that this ADP continues to rise. Normally, I will draft Sean Tucker ahead of him because of ADP, but because we're getting to like, I'm not expecting that we're going to be able to get him at 149. I'm probably going to take him here. I think like he's definitely in the my guy territory, and I think we're getting ADP value just from where he's going to end up during the summer, because of, and even in a couple weeks after the combine. What was it? Let me see if I can find the quote from him on the 40. Looking. There you go. Yeah, he says he's aiming to run in the 4.2s for the 40-yard dash. That'd be absolutely insane. Even if he can just end up in the 4.3s, like his stock's going to substantially increase. So I like getting him. He's definitely one where just the lack of familiarity of him as well as kind of other prospects will make them kind of increase. So he's 5'9", 185. And he was catching more and more passes each year. His freshman year, didn't play that much. Sophomore year, 24 receptions, 260 yards. Next year, junior year, 36 receptions. Like, yeah, he's got the profile. He's got the speed. I think he can be a sleeper and would not be surprised. Like, the one thing is he's 5'9", he's 185. He's a little small. But we've seen many others still have success. We are back on the board. And there's Stafford falling off to at 149, complementing with our 3 QBs. We will happily take that. And there we go. This is working out quite well from a stack perspective, and it fits in with a question that I saw Hochberg was asking earlier. Are you typically going 3 QB, 3 tight end with 20 rounds in this contest? Yeah. Almost every time. And the reason why is because when you compare who is available at each position in the 17th, 18th, 19th, 20th rounds, the QBs and the tight ends pretty much have the best, like, clearly from a best projected point standpoint. And I think you can still find ones with substantial upside as well. When you're looking at the running backs and the wide receivers that are getting drafted there, they are true dart throws. Their actual projectable volume is very low. Or their upside is very unlikely to hit. We talked about Terrace Marshall, a guy that I actually like, but like his projectable volume, like, yes, he's right now looking like the number 2 wide receiver, but I wouldn't be shocked if they end up like, hey, bringing in a free agent and then he turns into a non every down player, or they draft another wide receiver or something. All these rookie wide receivers that are back there, those guys are like 3rd, 4th rounders. Like, yes, they could turn out and be nice hits, but like there's also a chance they are just complete zeros. And same with the running backs. Like a lot of the running backs back there, those guys are 4th, maybe even 5th rounders. And again, they may have 0 playing time. And that's why, like, yes, we're hoping to hit with the running backs and wide receivers, but like it's huge risks. Then we compare to the QBs and the tight ends. I went through those tight ends earlier. Those guys are going to be starting tight ends on their team. And we don't really know what their upside is because some of them, as we mentioned, like Jelani Woods, this is his 2nd year. That could be a breakout opportunity with a new quarterback. Or we look at QBs. You look at the QBs that are going 200. I mean, gosh, like, all right, let's take a look. At the very back here, you're talking like a potential top 5 draft pick this year going 201. You're talking Sam Howell, who actually has rushing upside. And is most likely to be the starting QB for the year, going at 180. Jimmy G, who is a competent quarterback who's likely going to be able to play a system. And like maybe here you don't have the upside, but you've definitely got projectable volume. And then you got them like Anthony Richardson, who have been slowly moving up the draft boards, but like has immense upside. And so these are basically 18th, 19th, 20th round picks. Yeah, because we get these 2 extra free rounds with the 20, I want to use those late rounds to capitalize on actually getting that volume, that projectable volume. And there is some upside there too. Now, what are we giving up by doing that? Well, like, I'm usually not going to be grabbing a Jalen Hurts, Patrick Mahomes, Josh Allen, and then also spending 2 picks at QB. So in those scenarios, like now I'm going Josh Allen. I'm only taking one other quarterback, and that extra roster spot I'm dedicating to one of those dart throws that we talked about. When you're doing an 18-man draft and now those extra roster spots are 17th, 18th rounders, those are more valuable in those drafts, and why it's more important to letting them go with just 2 tight ends or 2 QBs in an 18, but in a 20, that ability to use it on a tight end or QB is too valuable. Okay, we are back here. I've not been looking from a stack partner wise. Let's grab Adam Thielen for the stack here. This is where I mentioned, like, yeah, we don't have them project, but like these are, when you're getting to this place, getting a stack is far more important than trying to pick the right player from a talent, projectable, upside, all of that stuff. More important to kind of, if Kirk Cousins has a 350-point fantasy year, if Kirk Cousins in the week 17 of the playoffs throws for 5 touchdowns, let's try to make sure that our late round guys are the stack partners for them. Okay, let's start taking a look. So we've got 5 running backs I'm pretty happy with. I could see us maybe adding 1 more late to get to 6 with this build. That's what we'll probably end up doing. Wide receivers went very strong at the top with Kupp and Higgins and a couple of mid guys, and we really slowed down. So wide receiver and tight end is where we really want to add some depth. Let's do a quick search from a stack partners wise, who we maybe want to queue up. No one else from the Vikings. I think we got Tim Patrick. We can definitely from Denver. That'd probably be the only one. I'm out on KJ Hamler again this year. And then from a Rams standpoint, we've got the Allen Robinson, the Van Jefferson, and we'll probably stop there. Okay, so that's what we're looking at from a wide receivers, from a tight ends. Gesicki probably just went. I really like Gesicki. I talked about that last week. Hayden Hurst isn't a bad one here. I like tight ends that are on strong offenses. We've also got T. Higgins, so we're getting a little complementary aspect if that offense does do well. Yeah, I think Hayden Hurst is probably the play here. Let's push that at the top. Almost forgot to do that. So we'll grab our second tight end, position of need in this situation. Deonta Foreman, a little note on him. Carolina, I just saw it today, says that they are likely to be using a committee, maybe even 3 running backs throughout the year, compared to the running back position to like being in a car wreck, basically, I think alluding to the amount of wear and tear, the physicality, the number of hits that you're getting. So I would not expect for Carolina to really have a workhorse. I think Foreman, Chuba, maybe they draft another player. I could see them drafting another running back in like the 4th or 5th round this year. There's obviously always the free agents. So one of the most dangerous things you can do right now is drafting running backs with projectable volume, because you look and you're like, oh, this person looks like they're going to be the starter. But this early, there's so much that, can happen both from a free agency and from a draft perspective that I care more about talent, more about upside with my picks, especially at the running back, with the later picks at the running back position, than projectable volume. I see people asking about the Irv Smith aspect. Let's take a look. So I use SpoTrack. It's always my go-to. I'll basically just type the player's name in and then also go to SpoTrack, looks like he is an unrestricted free agent this year. So we wouldn't be drafting him in this one from a Cousins standpoint, not expecting him to be back with Minnesota, or if he is back with Minnesota, not expecting to have major role. I would guess that he'll probably go somewhere where he thinks he can, have a chance at being that starter. So that doesn't excite me too much. The way his injuries have been in the past, not sure what team really is going to want to take a major chance on him either. So whatever team does take him probably is going to have secondary plans as well for their tight end. So it kind of puts him at best case, he's going to be fighting for a job. We're coming to 188. We got these 3 wide receivers at the top that we're still looking at. Let's start thinking of other tight ends here. I've not been taking much Zach Ertz. I think just Trey McBride's going to increase his role. And there's the Kyler Murray risk. So, just not taking much there. I'll put him in the queue just for us to keep an eye on. Probably just going to go down the list here. We can mess with the order a bit. But because we only need one more tight end and none of these are stack partners, I'm going to prioritize taking these wide receivers who I still like and give us the stack aspects. We'll probably drop Van a little. Somewhere around there works. We'll play it by ear. We'll see. Let's see. Any other questions anyone has as we round out? Feel free throw those in. We've got 4 more picks. Let's take a look at our Advanced Wars team. How many more running backs did they go? Okay, they slowed down the running backs at least. Ended up grabbing one more here with the tank aspect. Anthony Richardson going at 185. I'm expecting him to continue to rise. We've seen his ADP moving up. I'm going to probably stay a little ahead of him on ADP throughout this tournament. And then need to consider at what point is it too expensive? Because if you asked me, I don't know, a month or two ago, thoughts on Anthony Richardson, I would have thought most likely he's a player that sits for the majority of the first year and then comes in. I've kind of thought, I still think that's probably the case, but I'm also watching the draft capital odds and projections and stuff. And obviously he can blow away the combine. And in those situations, maybe a team does take an earlier pick and they're willing to just, use him year one and help him kind of grow through actually on field in-game situations. So I think that's still a possibility. And all you need with him is to be on the field because of what he's able to do on the ground. Kind of whether it's the Colin Kaepernick, whether it's the Cam Newton, what build style, he's still going to get those rushing touchdowns and those rushing opportunities. You just need him on the field. Trying to just look. So yeah, I think I'd be willing to take him. Sam Howell's probably one that it's going to be. No, I think I think even the rankings I have him right now, right above Sam Howell. Let me see. I have Sam Howell 194. And yeah, Anthony Richardson 192. So that's right at that area. The next tier would then be the Jordan Love, Mac Jones aspects, which I don't know. I'm not taking much Mac Jones. I think you know what you're getting out of him. I don't think he provides us the level of upside that we're looking for in these contests. Jordan Love, we have a lot more confidence that he's going to be the starter for since starting day one and probably for the entire season. Is a lot more, this is subjective, I guess, but I'm assuming he's a lot more pro ready than Anthony Richardson is for a variety of reasons, being behind Rodgers, getting to feel for everything in that offense, just versus Anthony Richardson being very raw. But yeah, obviously his upside doesn't touch the Anthony Richardson. So you just got to weigh that. I think what'll be more interesting is come 18 round drafts, what are we doing with Anthony Richardson? Because I do not think, I think it's going to be a lot of teams are hey, do I just go draft Josh Allen and then Anthony Richardson really late and hope that Anthony Richardson works out. Like, I think that's going to be a really interesting combination because if you grab one of these elite QBs, like, you don't need a floor for your second guy. You may as well take a chance on someone like an Anthony Richardson who may have occasional spike weeks that can actually outperform your starting QB. Okay, we're coming back here. We've got Van Jefferson at the top, but those tight ends flew off the board. Hopefully Donkey from Shrek does not grab our last tight end in our queue there. And he does. Oh, that's probably a streamer situation. Gosh, those tight ends went. Hawkinson and Hurst. We could not grab another tight end. I think we're still going to want to. We'll try to figure that one out. Let's now just grab the Van Jefferson, get that last stack partner. 2 picks left. We'll probably go running back and tight end. From a running back, no one that I really love right now. From a tight end, got to think through. What do we want to do with these? I think Cade Otton's going to have the starting tight end role there, but I don't know how valuable that is going to be considering they're potentially happy just going with Kyle Trask. So, like, don't love that. There is that Irv Smith that we talked about, but I don't think it makes sense. I saw Pat Kerrane draft Sam Laporta out of Iowa recently. Maybe, he thinks he's going to be like a second rounder. We know those Iowa tight ends can play. But I'm overall don't love the rookie tight ends. We'll see. Running backs wise, Michael Carter, I've actually been drafting a decent amount if I've gone heavy on the rookie running backs, thinking that, hey, Breece Hall may start off slow. Maybe Michael Carter can help me early on and then still have some form of role throughout. But we don't really need that on this team. I'm thinking we may grab Hunter Henry here. Just checking right now. Spotrac, he's not someone that I've been looking at. So his contract, he has 1 more year with New England. Then he'll be a free agent next year. Jonnu Smith pretty much disappeared last year. So let's grab Hunter Henry, still starting tight end, still has had a role. And maybe we see some positive regression from those 2 touchdowns last year compared to the 9 touchdowns the year before. Leaves us with 1 final player. Chat, give me your favorite running back that is still available right now. Who should we add to this team? Jaylen Warren worth a flyer. Yeah, no, I think Jaylen Warren definitely is. His ADP is like 190, I think. So 191 right there. We saw him having a decent role in that offense. I think that offense is content with using multiple backs. I'm low on Najee, and by result, I probably should be a little okay with Jaylen Warren. Now, I don't think Jaylen Warren has much likelihood to kind of become the alpha there, even if Najee did, have a substantial injury. I don't think it's just going to become the Jaylen. I don't know. Maybe it could. It definitely could. Probably talking myself too much, but I'm fine with Jaylen Warren. No issues there. All right, what do we see? Deuce, 5'7", 5'6", whatever he is. Deuce, such an electric player. I think he's Kansas State. Watched him a little in college. It was fun to watch, but gosh, I have 0 of him. I just can't imagine what role he's going to have in the NFL. We've just seen it time and time again. These little tiny guys just don't end up having a role. But I see that Deuce as well. I mean, Dusty Gus Edwards. If you're looking for a role, he'll probably have it. With them having J.K. Dobbins, I don't expect him to draft or bring in another running back. So most likely he's going to stay that 1B there. Now, when you get rid of Greg Roman, Maybe that means, Greg Roman was giving Dusty Gus Edwards a lot more of a role, and J.K. Dobbins was complaining for it. So maybe Gus Edwards doesn't have that role with Todd Monken as a new offensive coordinator, but that is still a possibility, although he went as well. Let's see. Any names here of people that are still actually available? I think you guys are naming them, and then they just flip off the board very quickly. Let's see. Garrett Gray is projected to go draft 120. That's like a 5th rounder or something. Don't want to reach that far in. I think I'd rather go with a more veteran style here. Zamir, Boston Scoot. Yep, Hunt and Dearness Johnson. I think Dearness is definitely, I don't know, I haven't clicked it, but I think it's a little interesting just because he could have re-signed with Cleveland and be that number 2. But my problem with Dearness is outside of those couple games we saw in Cleveland, his profile is not very attractive. He's very slow. And so I'm scared that he's just not going to be able to get a role or an opportunity on an offense. No one mentioned the one guy that I'm thinking the most of. Pierre Strong just won. That's the one I was going to say. Because I think he could maybe be the number 2 there in New England. This leaves us with a dirty situation. Maybe we just grab another wide receiver. I think that's the place right now. I don't think there's a stack guy we want. We can just grab one of these rookies, go with a Parker. Ugly, but let's do it. Those running backs just disappeared. We were a bit unfortunate with our last 2 picks. Conklin going the pick before. We ended up going with Henry. Pierre Strong going before Parker. Oh, well. 19th and 20th will do you in. That's, you guys are just too sharp in this draft room, taking the guys that we like to see. Usually I can grab those guys in the 18th and the 19th and 20th. Well, all right. Thanks everyone for joining us. If you have the time, subscribe, hit the like button, leave a comment afterwards. I mention all the time, but it really is important. Those comments in the YouTube section, the references on Twitter, let the big bosses know that, hey, you guys do like this content, and allows me to keep kind of coming back and providing it to you all free on the channel. So I enjoy these. Thanks everyone for showing up. I am off to Puerto Rico for a little work trip tomorrow morning. Gonna enjoy some sun, maybe some rum, obviously get some biz in, and everyone else. Hope you all have a fantastic weekend. I won't be drafting, so take over those lobbies. And other than that, I will be back next week. And in the comments as well, if you got someone that you think in the industry that I should bring on, whether they're doing other shows or they provide good rookie analysis, draft stuff, whatever it is, put them in the comments, tag me on Twitter or something, reply to when I put out the thread, and I'll start bringing on some guests for this as well to keep them fun. All right. Thanks so much, everyone. I will see you all later.